Welcome to our bonus module. If you're watching this, you might be here for one of two reasons. Either you want to be prepared for the unexpected, or something has really gone wrong and you need help fixing it. Either way, you're in the right place. In the main course, we've talked about how to do everything right, but real life is messy. Flights get canceled, mistakes happen, policies change, and sometimes good people make bad decisions under pressure. The difference between a career-ending mistake and a learning experience often comes down to how you handle the aftermath. Let me tell you about 3 people who made mistakes and how their recovery strategies determined their career outcomes. First, there's Jake. Jake was a business analyst who accidentally expensed a personal dinner during a business trip. He realized his mistake 2 weeks after submitting his expense report when he was reviewing his credit card statement. Jake panicked. He hoped no one would notice. He didn't see anything. 3 months later, during a routine audit, the finance department caught the personal expense. Not only did Jake have to pay it back, but he was written up for failure to self-report expense errors and lack of integrity in financial reporting. Jake's approach? Hope and pray. The result? Career damage and trust issues. Now, let's look at Maria. Maria made the exact same mistake. Accidentally expensed a personal dinner, but Maria caught it the next day when she was organizing her receipts. Here's what Maria did. She immediately emailed her manager and the accounting department. Hi, manager and accounting department. I need to report an error on my recent expense report. I accidentally included a personal dinner charge, $47, that should not have been expensed. I'll submit a corrected report and reimburse the company immediately. I apologize for the mistake and have updated my documentation process to prevent this in the future. Maria's manager's response: thanks for catching this and reporting it promptly. These things happen. Your proactive approach is exactly what we want to see. Maria's approach: immediate transparency and accountability, and the result: enhanced reputation for integrity. Finally, there's David. David made a bigger mistake. He booked an expensive hotel suite by accident, realized it during check-in, but was too embarrassed to call his manager. The suite cost $400 more than the approved rate for 3 nights, $1,200 extra. David thought he could handle it quietly. He tried to negotiate with the hotel, looked for ways to offset the cost, and eventually submitted the expense, hoping his manager would just approve it. When David's manager saw the expense, he didn't just question the cost. He was upset that David had hidden a significant budget variance for 2 weeks. David, the issue isn't the hotel cost. The issue is that you made a decision that affected our project budget and didn't communicate it. How can I trust you with clients' budgets if you can't be transparent about hotel budgets? But here's where David's story gets interesting. Instead of getting defensive, David said, "You're absolutely right. I should have called you immediately when I realized the mistake. I was embarrassed and I tried to handle it myself, which was poor judgment. What would you like me to do differently next time?" David's manager appreciated the acknowledgement and used it as a teaching moment. "Next time, call me immediately. We have contingency budgets for travel issues, but we need transparency to manage them properly." David's approach: initial mistake, but strong recovery through accountability and learning. And the result? Short-term consequence, long-term trust building. The lesson from these 3 stories: it's not the mistake that defines your career, it's how you handle the mistake. Let me give you a framework for handling expense mistakes. I call it the REACT method. R, recognize the problem quickly. E, evaluate the business impact. A, act transparently and immediately. C, communicate proactively with stakeholders. And T, take responsibility and learn from it. Let's walk through each step with real examples. Recognize. The faster you catch a mistake, the easier it is to fix and the better you look professionally. Common expense mistakes to watch for: personal charges mixed with business expenses, expenses that exceed policy limits, missing or inadequate documentation, wrong expense categories or business purposes, duplicate submissions, and policy violations you didn't realize at the time. Set up regular review habits. Check your credit card statements weekly during travel. Review expense reports before and after submission. Use technology to flag potential issues. Evaluate. Not all mistakes are created equal. A $15 lunch categorization error is different from a $1,500 unauthorized flight upgrade. Consider the dollar amount involved, policy violation severity, potential impact on budgets or client relationships. Whether it's a pattern or an isolated incident, and how long the mistake has gone unaddressed. This evaluation helps you determine the appropriate response level and urgency. Act. Take corrective action immediately, but make sure it's the right action. For small mistakes under $50 and no policy violations, correct the expense report if still possible. Submit amendment with explanation and reimburse the company if necessary. For medium mistakes, $50 to $500, minor policy issues, email the manager and accounting department immediately. Provide full explanation and corrective action plans and request guidance on preferred resolution process. And for larger mistakes over $500 or major policy violations, call your manager immediately. Don't wait for email. Prepare detailed explanation and documentation and be ready to reimburse immediately if required. The key is matching your response to the severity of the mistake. Communicate. How you communicate about mistakes is as important as what you communicate. Bad communication is, I think there might be a small error on my expense report, or the hotel charged more than I expected, or I'm not sure if this was allowed. Good communication. I need to report an expense error and request guidance on correction. Or I accidentally exceeded hotel policy by $200 and need to discuss reimbursement. Or I violated alcohol policy unknowingly and want to make it right. Be specific, take ownership, and focus on solutions rather than excuses. Take responsibility. This is where you demonstrate professional growth and build long-term trust. Don't just fix the mistake. Show you learned from it. I've updated my receipt organization system to prevent this. I've added policy review to my pre-trip checklist, or I've set up automatic alerts to catch similar issues faster. This shows maturity and systematic thinking, not just damage control. Now let's talk about some advanced scenarios that aren't covered in typical training. Extended travel situations. What if you're on the road for weeks or months, living in hotels, eating all meals out, accumulating expenses that would be personal at home, but are business related during extended travel? Extended stay guidelines. Laundry becomes reasonable after 5 to 7 days. Gym memberships might be justified for stays over 2 weeks. Upgraded accommodations for monthly stays could be cost effective. And personal care items beyond basics might be necessary. But document everything. 3-week client engagement, laundry service required for professional appearance maintenance. Emergency situations. Flight canceled, need expensive last-minute rebooking. Hotel flooded, need emergency accommodations. Rental car breaks down, need premium replacement. Emergency expenses often exceed normal policy limits, but they're usually justified with proper documentation. Emergency expense protocol: 1. Handle the immediate business need. 2. Document everything as it happens. 3. Call or text your manager with a brief update of significant costs. 4. Submit detailed explanation with expense report. And 5. Keep all correspondence and proof of emergency. Family emergency travel. What if you have a family emergency during a business trip or need to extend or modify travel for personal reasons? This gets complicated because business and personal needs intersect, but it's manageable with clear communications and boundaries. Family emergency protocol. First, notify your manager immediately about the situation. Clearly separate business and personal costs. Document which expenses are business versus personal responsibility. Get approval for any trip modifications that affect business costs. And consider company policies on emergency leave and travel. Weather and travel disruptions. Blizzards, hurricanes, airline strikes, airport closures. When travel disruptions are beyond your control, companies are usually reasonable about additional costs. But you need to demonstrate that you made reasonable efforts to minimize these costs. Disruption management. Keep all documentation of cancellations and delays. Show attempts to find reasonable alternatives. Document additional costs with business justification. Communicate proactively with your manager about delays and impact. And don't use disruptions as opportunities for upgrades or luxury. Career recovery after major mistakes. What if you've made a significant expense mistake that has damaged your reputation? Can you recover? Usually yes, but it requires a systematic approach and time. Recovery strategy. Immediate. Full accountability, restitution, process improvement. Short term, 1 to 3 months. Flawless expense compliance, proactive communication. Over the medium term, 3 to 12 months, demonstrate broader professional growth, take on additional responsibilities. In long term, 1 year or more, build new reputation based on consistent excellence. I know someone who got written up for an expense violation in their first year, but became known as the department's expense policy expert by their third year. They turned their mistake into expertise and eventually trained other employees. Edge cases and gray areas. Let's talk about situations that don't fit neatly into policy categories. Scenario 1. Client insists on paying for dinner, but you already need the reservation on your corporate card. Solution? Accept the client's payment gracefully. Note it on your expense report. Client reimburse dinner costs directly. $0 company expense. Here's another scenario. You're traveling with a colleague who makes poor expense choices that reflect badly on your company. Solution. Don't become the expense police, but document your own choices clearly and avoid being associated with questionable expenses. Scenario number 3. International travel where cultural norms conflict with company policies. Example. In some cultures, refusing expensive business entertainment is insulting, but your company has strict limits. Solution? Participate appropriately. Document cultural necessity and seek guidance. Client culture required formal banquet attendance, exceeded normal limits, but necessary for relationship management. When technology fails, what if your expense app crashes? What if you lose your phone with all your receipt photos? What if your corporate booking system is down when you need to make changes? Technology backup plan. Email receipt photos to yourself as backup. Keep physical receipts for important expenses. Have alternate booking methods available. Document technology failures as explanation for unusual processes, and don't let technology problems become your problem. Handling policy changes. Company policies change, sometimes mid-trip. What seemed acceptable when you book might violate new policies when you submit. Policy change protocol. Stay informed about policy updates. When in doubt, operate under the stricter policy. Document timing of policy changes relative to your expenses and seek guidance when policies change during active travel. Ethical concerns. What if you witness expense fraud by colleagues or managers? What if you're pressured to violate policies? This is serious territory that goes beyond expense management into professional ethics. Ethical response framework. Document what you observe factually. Know your company's reporting procedures. Don't participate in questionable practices even if pressured. Seek guidance from HR or ethics hotlines when available, and protect yourself legally while doing the right thing. Let me end with a remarkable success story. Jennifer was a consultant who made a major expense mistake in her second year. She accidentally double billed $3,000 in client entertainment expenses across 2 different projects. When the error was discovered during an audit, Jennifer could have been fired. Instead, she, 1, immediately took full responsibility and paid back the excess. 2, analyzed how the mistake happened and created new controls. 3, volunteered to review expense processes company-wide. 4, developed training materials to prevent similar mistakes. And 5, became the go-to person for expense policy questions. 3 years later, Jennifer was promoted to operations manager, largely because of the process improvement skills she demonstrated after her mistake. Her manager said Jennifer's response to her expense error showed the kind of problem-solving and accountability we want in leadership roles. Jennifer turned her biggest professional mistake into her biggest career accelerator. Here's what I want you to remember from this bonus module. Mistakes are inevitable. Everyone makes them. The goal isn't perfection, it's professional response to imperfection. Speed matters. The faster you identify and address mistakes, the easier they are to fix and the better you look. Transparency builds trust. Hiding mistakes destroys careers. Owning mistakes builds credibility. Learn visibly. Listen, don't just fix the mistake. Show how you're preventing future ones. Context is everything. The same mistake can have different consequences depending on how you handle the aftermath. Before we wrap up, let me give you an emergency template for when things go wrong. Hi, manager. I need to report an expense issue and request guidance. You briefly describe the problem. I take full responsibility and want to handle this correctly. Here's what I'm proposing. Include your suggested solution. Could we discuss this at your earliest convenience? I'm available by phone if needed. Save this template, customize it for your situation, use it when mistakes happen, and they will happen. Congratulations on completing the full course, including this bonus module. You now have the knowledge to handle not just normal business travel expenses, but also the curveballs that business travel throws at everyone. You know how to avoid mistakes, but more importantly, you know how to recover from them professionally when they occur. Remember, your career isn't defined by whether you make mistakes, it's defined by how you handle them. Go forth and travel safely, expense wisely, and remember, you're never alone when problems arise. Every experienced business traveler has been where you are and made mistakes similar to yours. The difference between successful professionals and everyone else isn't the absence of mistakes, it's the presence of systems, accountability, and the wisdom to turn problems into learning opportunities. I hope this helps. I'll see you next time.